This is Trekland HQ version 2, and we are live. Yes, today with academic and author guest Adam Kotsko. Starfleet Academy's fate fits, unfortunately. That's my guest coming up very soon here, real quickly on Trekland Tuesdays Live. Yes, it's number 442. Yes. Here with Dr. Trek, Larry Nemechek, coming at you from the heart of Trekland through Portal 47, and yes, everything Trekland, for some sanity, clarity, and a bigger picture in all things Star Trek. Yes, it's a home also of this year celebrating the 60th with our Exploring Trek sites, Hollywood to STLV, aka the hashtag LA to Vegas, a week of small group, no more than 20, and we're cutting off registration in a month. A week of actual Star Trek touring locations with our actor friends, more to be announced the week before Vegas vacation. Don't need to attend Vegas, but that's where we'll wind up starting in LA. 6 days and nights. What a great way to meet new fans, whether or not you're going to the Vegas convention. GeekNationTours.com. Check it out. But hurry, the window is going to close at the end of April. Or if you're coming to LA and you've only got a spare day, don't forget Trekland Treks. It's getting into the spring and now summer. It's a perfect time to come up and take your customized, prearranged away mission that I've helped you plan. Then I concierge. I handle the traffic. I even help wrangle your cosplay, your photography. It's a memorable day in LA, and you've planned it with my help. Check that out at treklandtreks.com or larrynemechek.com. Yes. It's a guest day. I told you we had like guest after guest lined up coming. This was a happy surprise. Not happy in the fact of all these events that we're talking about. We're still trying to make sense of, as I did at WonderCon this last week with a wonderful panel, which we've got recordings of it on the way. You can see the photos. Just everything about the simple cancellation of Starfleet Academy, which is not simple, but nothing in this world today is, because of all the interweaving dominoes and ancillary effects. Yes, ripple effects. Everything from the way media is built or not built today, down to ownership, down to what the audience even wants. And can we even measure that anymore? Do we even have metrics that people stand on to point to as reasons or excuses? Are those metrics even totally trustable? Because in case you didn't realize, Star Trek has its own funky, unique history of exposing metrics. I'm thinking 1969, I'm thinking 2005, maybe even right now, where the metrics used had to be changed, within a year or two, and gave us a totally different story after the fact. Well, that's what we're going to be into today. It is a guest day, but I got to say, aside from that, welcome everybody. If you're joining us for the first time, you found your way to Trekland Tuesdays Live somehow, some way, want to say welcome. I'm going at this time of day, which is early afternoon Pacific. We can include folks from Europe and a lot of places around the world. It's even early the next morning in Australia and the Far East. So welcome to everybody wherever you're coming from. Please sound off in the chat. If you haven't found the chat yet, you should, because we've got a great community of TTLers. I have Portales in there from Portal 47. We have our own TTLers and our own Patreon, folks from around the world. It's a great group. Introduce yourself. Let us know where you're coming from. How's the weather where you are? How's the trek where you are? And then if you want to lurk, that's totally fine too. But just to know, if you're coming in on the chat, and we should be on all cylinders today. The YouTube is the best. You're going to see all the comments as on Twitch. Facebook only sees Facebook comments, just to say. So come on in on YouTube if you can. You're also helping my metrics with YouTube. And also, if you feel so inclined, you can throw a little change in there as a super chat question, and we'll jump on that when we get to it. Today, the chat questions will be a little different than when it's just me, because when we have a guest, sometimes we dive into the chats way ahead of the end. So you know how that works. And listen, if you're watching this later, not live, welcome again and leave a comment below. There should be a lot of thought-provoking things thought and said. And then maybe you can join us live on a Tuesday, one of these weeks when you're off work. I know it's right in the middle of the day. Some people come in and they just lurk with the sound off and enjoy watching the captions fly by. But in any case, leave us a comment if you're watching later on over the weeks and months, because this is a topic that's not going to go away. I have a feeling like this is going to be dragulous, mystify us. We'll be debating on this. We'll be debating on this for 20 and 30 years. People talked about the Nielsen ratings and the last couple of seasons of original Star Trek, and we still discuss that. People don't discuss what happened to Enterprise at the end and some of the myths that are not myths about that. But just the measurements and the metrics as much as the quality and difference of opinion and the channels that brought them there. Okay. You know what we're talking about. I'm thrilled to have back, if you've been a longtime viewer, in the last year, Adam Kotsko, PhD, Dr. Adam Kotsko, teaches university level in the greater Chicago area, west of Chicago. Normally has his thoughts and subjects on things quite a piece from pop culture, but he indulged himself and did a book called Late Star Trek. We've talked the final frontier in the franchise era. We talked about this last year. We had Adam on the Trek Files a couple of times on specific moments. He has a metric that he applies to Star Trek, and what he calls Late Star Trek is Enterprise and onward, Kelvin movies, the last Berman movie, Kelvin movies, and he looks at the book empire of the aughts that had to be revised, all those things, as well as the modern series. So enough talk. Let's get Adam in here and bid him hello again. Adams, good to see you again, my man.
Hi, how are you doing?
I am doing well. Thanks for joining us. Now let me get my chat. Now that I let you in the room, let me get into the chat here. I think, okay. No, thank you, Rob. I see Facebook and YouTube are fully operational. We had some glitches over the last month. Anyway, good to see you. Thanks for reaching out. So everybody, Adam wrote me and said, hey, do you want to look at the recent events in light of kind of that metric, that lens that you set up with your book that you were using to look at all those, what a lot of people wouldn't lump all those in the same arena when they're talking about Star Trek and modern, but you start with Enterprise. So why don't you give us a little refresh about what that lens is that you use, that metric?
Yeah, I think just broadly speaking, I think this is a kind of metric that you can apply to any franchise or any long-running storytelling world, which is that as you keep adding more and more material, it becomes kind of harder to justify why do we need more material. And there are three approaches that people use. The first is simply fan service, which I know is kind of a loaded term to some fans. I just use as a neutral description of just like giving people more of similar stuff that they've had before, just kind of trying to please them in a very direct way. And the problem with that is that you eventually ask yourself, if this is all just the same as what it came before, why are we even doing this? Why not just watch the reruns and cut out the middleman? And so that leads people to think, okay, what we need to do is do something really, really new. And that's going to justify our existence, and it's going to show, why do we need more Trek? Because we can do radically new things now. And I think the biggest moment of that was probably Deep Space Nine. When it came out, it was obviously reversing many of the tropes of the show. It was, it was stationary. It was less episodic. It was more serious, more political, more dark, etc. And
which drove a lot of people crazy back in the day.
Right. Yeah. And
it's the Star Trek that doesn't go anywhere. That was
yeah. And I mean, even the fact that they made the wormhole, but that it was like dangerous. It like, oh no, this is exposing us to like, even that was reversed. But I think that, when you do things like that, people start to ask, why are you insisting that you're calling this Star Trek when you're doing the opposite of everything we thought Star Trek was? And obviously in the long run, Deep Space Nine kind of folded itself back in, and everybody loves it now in retrospect, even though it wasn't as popular at the time. And I think that part of the reason that people love it now is that it really used the third strategy, which is to say, we're contributing to the overall story of the franchise. We're doing fresh world building. we're telling you about like how the galaxy is laid out. We're giving you all of these important events as to, like building out Ferengi culture, building out Cardassian culture, building out all of these things, the Dominion, and the world building is what's going to draw us in. That there's still more to know about this world, and we're giving you the official line on that. And so the three
Besides,
strategies, just to
yeah, I mean,
summarize, yeah.
yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to negate, but I just occurred to me because one thing to me, it's a big part of that. It's like world building, and I totally there, and that's kind of my biggest appeal. That's
Mhm.
what made me a fan in the beginning. But I would also say that now that we've with Next Generation over the original series, it's not just world building. Does this make sense? It's time building,
Sure.
as in it sprawls across different centuries, and you can not only just go to a different corner of space. This sounds very Doctor Who-ish, I know, but you can go to a different corner of time, and I don't mean time travel. I mean what era,
Right,
and
absolutely.
learn something and learn from that, and that scares a lot of people. It seems like it scares. It doesn't scare some people, like the book authors want to go plunge in and they can handle it. But it seems like it scares others and they think, oh, this is too restrictive. I have to go. But anyway, I would say that time building coupled with world building is fleshing out the universe, just not sitting at one particular era.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a
Make
good
sense? Okay.
clarification.
Okay. Sorry. Go
That
with
is
you.
kind of what I meant to. I should have included that.
Well,
But
some people are literalists. So
yeah,
I just throwing it out there.
so basically, yeah, between fan service and then like trying to get creative freedom and do something totally different, and then like a kind of middle ground between the two of them is like we are moving the story forward. We are like filling in more details. We're giving you new information, but it's still fundamentally compatible. And I think that you could rate all of the different shows in this era that I'm talking about in different ways. Like the emphasis is different. I think why I started with Enterprise is that the fact that it was the first show that wasn't like just simply moving the timeline forward, like that's the easiest approach, right? Like you didn't need to worry about getting tangled up with Kirk and friends if you just moved the timeline forward, and then you could just act like it's its own independent thing. Basically, you have a choice to connect with past stuff if you want to, but you don't have to. And
Mhm.
I think Enterprise, by taking the choice of being a prequel, I think it wrote itself into this. It promised a certain type of world building and a certain type of continuity that the franchise hadn't really had before. And I think that part of why it was controversial is that the Berman and Braga kind of didn't understand what they had done in a sense. Like they didn't understand the check that they had written, and they weren't prepared to kind of cash it.
And then
Um,
Manny Koto was.
yeah. Oh, yeah. And then he doubled down on it, and he just went to town on all the inside baseball
And
stuff, and
the
kind of
the
finally
series
did
I
what
thought
people
we
thought
were
it was
getting
always going to
finally got.
be. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The
Um,
series I finally thought we were the series I thought we were getting all along finally showed up in the final season, which was what was so maddening to so many people in the end.
right. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, it's similar to Picard too. It seems like everybody thought it was going to be a reunion show, and it took them 3 seasons to finally do the
Yeah.
reunion show. I think what's really interesting in this era of Star Trek, the post kind of Voyager Star Trek, is how often they seem to want to distance themselves from fan demands. I think they want to imagine that they're going to reach a whole new audience, and that almost sometimes it seems as though their watchword is if the fans don't like it, that means that automatically other people will, and it'll be more popular. I mean, that's simplistic, and it seems to produce this dynamic though that they want to break new ground and do something new and do something different and reach a new audience, and the fans are dissatisfied, and then they're like, "Oh, I'm so sorry," and then they go kind of on this like apology tour. Like, I think that even season two of Picard was kind of an attempt at that. Like, season one kind of broke with expectations so much and took things in such a different direction than anybody would have guessed. And then season two, we're like building out eugenics wars lore and like whatever happened to Gary Seven and like, and then finally like season three, they're just like, okay, we're just gonna do what you thought we were gonna do in the first place.
Well,
Um,
I would say that I was fine. I didn't think all day, all reunion all the time wasn't going to work, and I don't think it was going to be exciting. And
mhm,
because they're all a different place in their lives, and that to me would be fan service to have.
sure.
And I mean, I thought because that was all driven by Sir Patrick,
Yeah.
and sometimes even an actor, a brilliant actor, has to be like Patrick is the one that said Romulans are boring, and that's why we didn't have Romulans in Insurrection, and that is why Insurrection came off as another episode instead of something that could have been epic.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? Anyway, and then look what happened. Oh, look, they used Romulans in the next movie. But sometimes the actors aren't the most brilliant, and it's like it took 2 seasons for them to get him to go, okay, fine, a reunion. But I don't think that was. I mean, I think that was a good. Now the choice of what to do when you weren't having a reunion, or maybe they dribbled in Riker and Troy and
Right.
updated them. That was fine, I thought, and they at least mentioned them. But still, it was like, what is the? Then it was like the story they chose that people also have an issue. But anyway,
Yeah, I think
yeah, I
there's
hear
just
you.
these. One thing that I documented in my book is that it seems like there's just these repeated, very strange storytelling choices, and I think it's the attempt to bridge this gap of like we've got to do fan service because what makes it a viable property is that we have a built-in audience of people who are going to pay their Paramount tax to watch every Star Trek episode. But if we just only go for those people, it's not going to be a kind of growth property that we want it to be.
Yeah.
And I think one thing that's I've kind of followed the debates around Starfleet Academy because at my Substack I've had a fellow author, Sabrina Mittermeier, who's another academic Star Trek commentator, write
Did you say
ups on it.
economic?
Academic commentator,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
And like the comment threads have gotten super heated. I was just shocked, and just in our own little corner of the fandom, like I struggle to get 800 views or something like this, and then like things are exploding, and it clearly was a super controversial show, and I think that a lot of people are going to look at that, and they're going to go into the kind of like franchise fatigue narrative where like I've seen stuff even posted on Facebook, like it's the fans' fault that it got canceled. You were too mean, it got canceled because of you. And I think one thing that keeps popping out to me when I was researching my book is that the fans often serve as a scapegoat for things that the corporate people wanted to do anyway. So I would observe, for instance, that Paramount is going through a major merger right now.
Well, that's
And
that's what I keep
like,
saying is this is the time, like I've never remembered when the fate of a Star Trek show was so caught up in things beyond its control.
right. Or even like, I would say if one fan killed the show, it was probably Stephen Miller, because we all know that the Trump administration has kind of more personalized things surrounding like approving mergers and stuff like that. And maybe they just felt keeping the show on would antagonize the administration.
then
We
Elon
probably will never really know.
Do you think that? Do you think that? Well, that's true. And see, that's part of this. Is like what's just on the. It reminds me of the Doomsday Machine. Like the Doomsday Machine didn't care about you until you crossed its defensive perimeter, right? And
Yeah.
then you get zapped. And then if you survive and can get away, it doesn't know you're there. Or it's like a Borg drone that isn't affected until it's like right. You attack it, then it comes back.
Right.
And you're right. That brought a lot of eyeballs to Academy that never would have from that whole world. And then Elon piled on even. But then I thought like then it passed out of their little defensive sphere, and it wasn't like it went on and on, like it has in some cases. They didn't just keep on. They went on to the next thing. Can you back up a minute? So tell me about your colleague. What kind of a arena, a Substack? What kind of arena? You said you had 800 viewers and it blew up. Tell me more about that. Like, did you have total strangers find their way there and jump in, or was it people from your world that you were surprised and their adjacents got into it?
Yeah, I think I actually started a Substack around the time that my book was coming out. I thought it would just help me to kind of market it or build interest. And it's called, the URL is latestartrek.substack.com. And recently, like around the end of last year, I started, like I had people offering to write posts for it, like other professors who wanted to share their thoughts on Star Trek.
And just to refresh, your primary academic area is?
It's the study of religion. And it's kind of what makes all these issues of like canon and like communities reacting to canons of authoritative texts kind of interesting to me. Like treating Star Trek as a religion. Sorry, Gene. But so okay, what happened is
Now that's nuanced, because to me, I never treat it like a religion, but I just said the whole appeal of it is that it tries to maintain. And some people will say, "Well, it's folly. That's ridiculous." Like, well, it wasn't in the beginning, and it's actually. I just did a panel for Trek Talks talking about tribulations, and on one hand, my headcanon retcon is going to say that the '60s show were the dramatic adventures that Admiral Kirk in his preface his preface. Gene's novelization of the motion picture has a pseudo intro by Admiral Kirk, and Admiral Kirk says, "Oh, our exploits have been wildly exaggerated in the dramatic, And so now that people are wanting to move retcon the Strange New Worlds look, maybe you can say, well, the '60s that we loved, original series that got us here, were the dramatic adventures, and that's why they're a little simplistic now looking and all that." So that's a fun little headcanon that I carry. But then you get up against Tribulations was DS9, that no one's questioning that. And to match their time travel and have Cisco meet Kirk and all of that, and save the Arn Darvin's time travel plot, they match. Well, they have an episode in 30th anniversary. They had the original episode. So now we've got the canon point made that DS9 actually time traveled to actually see that. So if that were fictitious, that's the trouble with my headcanon theory.
It's complex, and I think really in the remaster they should go back and change the original series episode to have O'Brien and Bashir in that lineup after the fight, right? Because that's what canonically happened now.
I think well, yeah, I know, but then there's also like purity of film, like let's not anyway. That's why I liked having the toggle on the original remaster, which has kind of gone away now with all the streaming. You can't toggle back to the original effects when it's the streaming.
Although on the credits, it still all has the original effects only on the little highlights in the credits.
Little hot knife damage on the AMT Constellation model on Doomsday Machine. I went down that rabbit hole for a reason. We were talking about
the canon and the
and that's one of the, to me, that's what I keep saying, trying to get my arms around this, because it didn't used to be, it was just an assumption. That's what I learned in grad school, was that your assumptions are what tie you up, and you have to go out and identify them before, because you can't assume you think the same way as everyone else. There's always nuances of difference, even if they're not major differences. But that's why what kept me coming, because it was a universe that was fairly cohesive, and even if they tripped up at times, that was the goal. And anything else that's fun and genre-ish, that's not part of the mix. They're going to reboot Superman, Batman, any James Bond, Tarzan. Doctor Who is the only other genre that feels like it's grown, it's evolved to be reset over and over again, even though there's threads, especially the visual. And Star Trek was the only one, to me, that tried to do that. And even though it becomes a struggle after a few decades, that's the creative challenge to me. And that's where the Kurtzman era failed, until they kind of they were all into about concept canon and chronology canon, but it was like visual was just blind spot to them.
Yeah.
They asked for that, and then they learned their lesson, and now they think, oh, look, aren't you proud? We've got this one 3/4 the way there. And it's like, it's not hard. You have all this technology. You can do the lines and then make it look modern. But that's my soapbox. But they asked for that. But if you abandon that in Star Trek, you've just got another franchise now that reboots itself over the years. And you've lost a third of what made Star Trek special to itself. Not that it's a contest with any other franchise, but okay, that's my soapbox. I'll let you.
Yeah, and I think that once they, in the Kelvinverse, like when they cut themselves loose from all of that canon, like, I mean, the literal plot of Star Trek '09 is we have a new timeline. Like that's the entire literal plot, is to assert we have a new timeline, and they just never did anything with it.
Take that.
Yeah. And it seemed to go nowhere, because like the connection with that past stuff is what draws people in. And I think a certain type of fan is, even a new fan, is like fascinated. Like I've taught courses that talk about Star Trek or
Mm.
comics or things like that, and like to see like for a certain student that just that light goes on and they're like, oh, there's so much to know. I want to go. I want to watch it all. I want to get all this lore. I want to dive in and
What about
like
this? What about that? Oh, I didn't see that coming. But what about the would this and this be? No, it's not joined that way. It's joined this way. Oh, okay. You know what? I interrupted you. I had asked you about your Substack typically, and when you say it blew up,
yeah, it was.
what was your colleague's arena?
She's an American Studies scholar, and does her primary area is pop culture,
Okay.
and she put together a great edited essay collection on the first season of Discovery, primarily like turned it around super fast. Like just got a ton of professors and academics to write about it from different perspectives.
Wow.
It's
See,
really
the
great.
fandom world totally. About 15 years ago. I had no idea that there was an academic publishing world in pop culture. Well, not in pop culture, but a really big academic. Small publishing, small numbers, but people writing madly about all different fields
Yeah.
of discipline about Star Trek, whether it's theology or it's sociology or it's politics or it's psychology or it's groups or what racism, whatever it is.
Yeah, they
Um,
really start. I mean, there
all the
are pop
fields.
culture studies or cultural studies people who just cover a broad range of stuff. I think that probably the only pop culture property that you can get away with, like being an academic specialist and have any shot at a career, is Star Trek.
Because
Probably
of
20 years ago, it would have been like Buffy. You could have, there were people who had an entire academic career based on Buffy. And it kind of depends on whether like professors happen to like the show. And so they like Buffy, they like Star Trek,
right.
other things.
Well, 60 years is also part of the recipe there too. You've got a
Right. There's a
long,
ton of material. There's a
yeah,
ton.
and you have a
Even though
ton of
they,
fan reaction and cultural reaction and all that.
yes. So
So
I
you
was
had
able
this
to
Substack,
recruit several
yeah.
people to my Substack, including Sabrina, and she bravely took on the write-ups of Starfleet Academy. And like, it was people who had been commenting or people who were kind of in our circle in a way, but the level of nitpicking, the level of just kind of every episode like leading with tons of complaints that to me like didn't even make sense or
And
occur
this
to
is from
me.
your academic circle,
This is from people who were drawn to
not
my
random
academic
fans.
world. This
These are
is
people
just
with letters after their name.
and I like a couple people we finally just had to block because they were being so hostile, and so like we just had to like cut off their privileges, and I just couldn't believe it. Like it seems as though Starfleet Academy touched a nerve in a way that other shows hadn't, and to me, it's fine. It's fine. It's absolutely fine. Like there were episodes I didn't like. Most of them I did like. It was. I just don't understand what could possibly be making people so upset. But yeah,
Well,
but
the more you talk, I'm sorry, the more you talk, the more my head's exploding. So, of your academic colleagues who were on your Substack that blew up over this, and you could not believe it. So, the ones that you almost had to block or you did block, what was the nature of the academic collegial emergency?
it was just there were a couple people, and I don't even really know for sure
I
that
mean,
these two people
was
were
anybody like
academic.
revealing hidden racism or misogyny or
Yeah,
gender issues?
just being they weren't. No, it wasn't like that.
Okay.
And I guess I did get like one stray uh, comment that like accused her of being Jewish, and I just immediately deleted and blocked that person. Like that's a that's a strange, like right wing people just kind of love to diagnose you as being secretly Jewish or something. Um, really creepy.
What was the
But
issue that I mean, if it even makes sense, if it's even rational to talk about something in the show and she responded to something and they said, "What are
I
you, Jewish?" I mean, it
I
went
think
like that.
they this has happened to me before too. I think perhaps in some ways based on my appearance, sometimes people assume I'm Jewish, but um, if you are too anti-racist, they view it as you're anti-white, and therefore you must not actually be white. Therefore, you must be Jewish. Like it. This is. I mean, there are like neo Nazis on the internet, and this. I mean, this was just a very isolated incident. This one comment. I have no idea where they came from. I deleted
Okay,
them.
so that wasn't one of your
That's not
academic
representative.
colleagues.
But the issue was just like it seemed as though everybody in the threads were holding it up to an impossible standard, like the musical episode, or not the, what is it, Our Town, the Our Town
Yes,
episode.
yeah.
They were There was like this elaborate debate about that it was like coerced therapy and therefore it was like violating their rights, and he couldn't believe they would do this. And like, I didn't like that episode personally because I just don't like therapy narratives and I don't like theater, and so I just, that one wasn't for me. But I moved on
Wow.
with my
Okay.
life, and these people did not move on with their lives. So it wasn't
Well,
that they were being politically evil or something. It was that they were being just like super, super annoying and super nitpicky, and like the show just couldn't do
like
anything right.
procedurally
Yeah,
hyperventilating. Yeah.
right. Yes. Yeah. And I think that often fans will point to like problems of canon as a way of just making a general critique, but they don't
As a
want to or don't know how to like make the critique in other terms. And so there's, when they say this violates canon, they're saying, I don't like this. When a lot of stuff that arguably violated canon, like if they liked it, they just kind of ignore it, or they come up with like a fan theory that can reconcile it. I mean, you can always come up with a fan theory, right?
Mhm.
Like there's no limit
Had to do
what
it
you can
for
come to.
50
Yeah,
years. Yeah.
right. And
How did Khan know Chekhov? It
yeah, I
starts
mean,
with that.
Chekhov was in the basement of the Enterprise
Which
the whole
apparently,
time.
I was just on the cruise. Apparently, there was a chunk of fans who pay big money for the high end tickets, and they're not exempt from coming up and asking me. By the way, Larry, I always want to ask you, how did Khan know Chekhov? And I just stared at them like,
I think things
okay,
like
having a
that.
comfortable income does not mean you 40 years ago. Now that you're 50, somewhere over the last 50 years, you could have read the 9,000 theories about this. Anyway, but yes, yeah, you never know where it's going to come from.
And the contradictions, I think, sometimes become almost like an in joke or like a bonding thing, like the fact that we can kind of tolerate, like, oh, the eugenics wars in the 90s, haha. I think in some ways, like the existence of those things becomes like a kind of handshake, or like, I'm a fan, I know that this is an issue or something like that, which is another way that canon can become fodder for kind of a community building, even if it's not consistent. Sometimes the inconsistency is beneficial instead of
Mhm.
being a detriment.
Is the family wink.
Yes, exactly. I mean, even the joke from Trials and Tribulations, where Worf says, "We don't talk about this." Like, there, I mean, it's kind of a lampshade to say like that there is no in-universe explanation for this.
Well,
Um,
do you know the story behind that real quick?
Go for it.
So it was the team wrote the Tribulations, but this, and I wrote this, I published this 30 years ago in 96 in my article, and it's there, and it's hopefully it got picked up on Memory Alpha. They pick up everything else as long as you get credit for it, but they aggregate. That's the polite term for that, aggregating, not aggravating, but aggregating. No, the guys, and I say this, Ron Moore and Renee Echevarria did the teleplay after The Room kind of did the story, and I forget who has a story credit. Anyway, they, fanboys, wanted to totally explain the smooth, bumpy difference at this moment. And you got the Worf looking at the other Klingon, the TOS Klingons, and it had to be because it was matched footage and all that. And they really wanted to come up with, but they realized that they couldn't do it in a sentence or two.
Yeah.
It would bog down the whole scene. It would bog down the whole show. They really wanted to finally take the chance to get it explained and show everybody that this is Trek and we have one big happy fleet of canon. And they just realized it was going to bog down and it was going to be too long. And they had the theory, and it's basically what Mike. So another
It's basically what
generation
Enterprise
passes.
did.
Yeah. So it fell to Mike and Manny in fourth season Enterprise to do it, and they basically did, but they needed a whole 2-part episode to kind of get into it, right? Not one throwaway line. So instead of doing that, they had to address it, and they knew they could make it funny. They could be fodder. So they came up with that one line as a kiss off to it. But what happened, I remember I was like, oh, that's so disappointing. Damn, who knows when now we'll get this explained on film. It'll just be one of these debate things. But then what I didn't expect was for fandom to go, see, you can't just say it was a budget thing and ignore it. It was a reason. He just didn't say what the reason was. And so
Oh
it was like,
man.
well, okay. But I never would have thought that. But that was enough to keep that part of fandom happy that, like you people can't just write it off as a budget thing and generation. You know what I'm saying? But that's the
I
story
think what they
behind that
should have
line.
done, I
Yeah.
think my headcanon, or what my preferred canon, I know that they didn't do this in real life, but they should have just had Worf go back and be in TOS makeup and nobody mention it. Just like that's just never say anything about it as though this is the most natural thing in the world. And I mean, then that could launch fan theories, like the
Yeah.
episode where Spock travels back in time and he like starts acting like Vulcans were in that time or something like that. Like you could say that's how it is, right? And like anything could have been fodder. I think that would have been funnier if they had.
Anyway,
If
I
they
didn't mean to
wanted to be
derail
funny.
your whole discussion there about the. I was just fascinated the fact that your academic colleagues got just as fanishly defensive, offensive, wanting to tear it apart as
We're people too,
anyone.
you know.
What were there any surprises out of that group aside from just the number and the intensity, like specifically?
I mean, just the sheer devotion to, like, there were just a couple of guys who just came in with like 1,000-word list of complaints every day. Like I just couldn't and then if like
Academics though?
Yeah, we were. Well, they were at least attracted to this blog. I like some of them had pseudonyms. I don't really know for sure what their career path was,
okay.
but when I changed it to a group format, I changed the name to Critical Star Trek Studies, just kind of like a tongue-in-cheek, like more academic sounding name. And so like you kind of know what you're getting into if you're heading to this blog. So yeah,
what were their 1,000-point essays every day? I mean, what nothing.
It differed. It varied, but every single time they had done the episode wrong. That was the theory. Like it is as though they were on a quest to make sure that every single episode of Starfleet Academy was wrong in some way. It wasn't necessarily canon. Sometimes they thought they claimed that the story didn't make sense on its own terms. And I mean, some of their complaints, there are criticisms to be made.
Yeah.
Like,
oh yes,
I'm not sure. We get a lot of clarity of like Holly Hunter separating her from the child, and this is like the whole core of the show or something like that. Like, I think just like with any, I honestly don't think that Janeway's rationale for stranding them was adequately explained at the time.
That's been my thing for ages.
Yeah.
If she really didn't want to break the Prime Directive, they would have just backed off and yeah. Why did they blow up the array if they were not going to interfere in the natural order? The Kazon were coming up, and if they didn't want to interfere, they should have just backed out and let the Ocampa be destroyed, or let the, whatever.
Yeah, I'm on the early seasons of Voyager on my rewatch schedule right now, and man, there's a lot of questions to be asked about the Kazon as well. I think that they were a really poor villain species, and like having them have separate, different groups within themselves, like that didn't really work.
Well, it was meant to be originally. It was meant to be a metaphor on gangs, basically.
Oh my gosh.
Like Crips and Bloods and all that, and they did actually sit down. I've got a copy of this. I wound up with it, but they had Ken Biller sit down and come up with. They throw out all the Kazon Ogla and the Kazon this and the Kazon that and all that. The Kazon Mostrel, and they were all meant to be like different gangs that were the same but split up. And then when they had the Trabe, that they had been their oppressor, but then they overthrew the Trabe, and then the Trabe got a chance to come back.
That was a great episode because
they just looked like foam rubber headed bad Klingons, and
they did seem like, I mean, the one with the actor who played Nog in it, who was like the disgraced Kazon, who had to like
the young kid, Aaron's.
That was 100% a Klingon story, not a Kazon story. I did like the Trabe one because it had a Godfather 3 style attack on a boardroom, which I thought that Into Darkness was the only.
I was going to say, which was just presaging Into Darkness.
But I'm glad to see Godfather 3 getting some love.
Anyway, I feel like I keep derailing you. So you were going to say that I think the original thing you approached me with was the cancellation of the way Academy has gone down, the cancellation, and even the bigger picture around Paramount, and even like none of that was a surprise to you, or it all seemed to fit the kind of the landscape you laid out, or what did you mean?
Yeah, it was about a year ago that the book came out, and I remember when I was first submitting the manuscript and then when I was like finalizing the text, I just constantly had to be editing stuff because like when I submitted the manuscript, the issue was Prodigy. And like what is the fate of Prodigy season 2? It was so complicated. It seemed like it was like changing every 2 weeks. And then in my original draft, I was saying that Strange New Worlds and Lower Decks could probably just run indefinitely and carry out like, and everybody would be basically happy with this version of Star Trek if those two shows just kept going. And then like Lower Decks got canceled right like days before I had to finalize the text, and now Strange New Worlds too. And like, and it seems like Starfleet Academy was basically stillborn. I don't think that they really. It's as though they didn't even really ever intend for it to go beyond 2 seasons. It's like they're just kind of shutting down. And we could speculate about that, and I'm happy to do that. But I was thinking that this is at the very least a stopping point to say, okay, what did the Kurtzman era contribute to the franchise? Like it or not, it's canon now, right? It's part of Star Trek. Anything in the future will have to deal with it in some way. And what did they contribute?
Can I stop you right there? Because
Yeah.
that's a good stopping. We glossed over something just now that I want to go back to and just take a minute on. How Strange New Worlds seemed to be the golden child finally of the Kurtzman era, and then the third season took an odd, like too full of itself turn, and a lot of people were like, "Oh, well, that was my finally. You made a perfect, decent show." And now I'm not so sure about your judgment here. I mean,
Right, I agree. It was, yeah, season 3 was very hard to watch. And I wound up writing a very critical review of the season overall in LA Review of Books. But it was just so weird that they wanted to make it like be an overarching plot, but it was like they were hiding it from us until the very end. Like only the, oh, and like, yeah, so many puzzling decisions that they were making. And I feel like it's a very unforced error too, because it seemed like they had a free hand. They had a very easy format. Just do episodic episodes. Just do little morality tales. Like it's a tale as old as time, and yet they just found they had to do something different. Yeah.
Okay, refresh me. How were you about the crossover episode and the musical?
The crossover I liked. The musical, I guess what I thought was at least they're trying something. I think one good thing about
were you a wow, that's not near as crazy? I mean, I enjoyed it, but I was so skeptical, and even halfway through, I went, "Wait a minute," and then I went, "Okay, that's okay." But a lot of people were just, I think, "Oh my God, thank God that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be."
I think that's right. Yeah.
If they didn't just outright love it, it's like they went from, "Oh my God, this is the greatest thing ever," to, "Okay, that wasn't as wacko as I thought it could have been."
It was funny, I think it was funny, just like the Buffy episode is funny. Like, I think that what was a relief about Strange New Worlds is that you did have room for an episode that could just be funny. Like Discovery, we're on a schedule here. We got to save the entire galaxy. Like we don't have time to stop and like have a good time. But Strange New Worlds,
don't you dare turn a light on.
Oh yeah. Isn't it weird that the aesthetics in the 31st century are exactly the same as in the 2060s? Yeah.
If we lose our dark blue glow, we die. So don't ever turn a light on.
But I think that in general, what was good about the Kurtzman era was that they were trying stuff. Like they tried a lot of different formats. They tried to reach a lot of different audiences. Like the first ever attempt to actually reach young kids with Prodigy. I don't know what's going on with this preschool one. I watched one episode and thought I was going to have a heart attack, but okay, that's not for me.
You have to look at it through the lens of TV for 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds. Don't look at it
Teletubbies or something, right?
And don't look at it through the lens of Star Trek, except to know that they're throwing basics at, like, there's a delta and there's a phaser and there's a tricorder, and they had that what's the 3-word pledge? They say duty, honor.
I don't know.
service or something. Anyway, they have a little thing that they repeat, which is kind of the Starfleet way. It's just very dumbed down, and you can't get. My headcanon for Scouts is that is a show for kids of the 24th century
I
for
think that makes
2-year-olds,
sense, yeah.
and their sponsor is the Tribbles cereal from Trouble with Edward.
Yeah, so I mean, the Lower Decks was a bold new move too, to kind of like riff on the Rick and Morty style within Star Trek. I mean, Rick and Morty refers to Star Trek so many times. And like just basically trying a bunch of different things, even like bringing in the novelist Michael Chabon for Picard, and they're taking big chances. Like if they get a chance to have like a big actor, they're like, okay, we'll do something with this. It feels like they're a little more nimble and a little more open-minded than past eras of Star Trek had been. Like
Definitely.
I think Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, and Voyager all felt like they were just one big show, right? Like the production values, the acting style, the pacing, like the general feel of it. It was like they were episodes of one big meta show.
Right. Which
And like,
glacially evolved, but
yeah,
from the 30,000-foot level, yes. I mean, you could tell. And part of that was just time going by. The beginning of TNG and the end of Enterprise. But you wall off Enterprise from the other three.
well, I mean, it has similar production values and style too.
Well, a lot had changed by. I mean, you had digital technology, CGI, not just for ship battles, but everything about how to do, the ships. It was filmed on HD, and there was no lab and film and color stocking and video tapes. Everything was digital, and you could throw PDFs. The call sheets were on. Yeah. Anyway, TV culturally changed over that era, but
yeah,
from
definitely.
From a high level, they were all, yeah.
And I think even the streaming format let them be. I think they could have been even more flexible. Like sometimes I think that they should have just like in some cases waited till they had an idea instead of like running a new show, or like maybe we don't need Picard season 2 if we have to be driving around LA and that's all we could do. Like they could have taken advantage of the format more, but I think
you're forgetting about the demands of capitalism and executives there. So
yeah, yes, of course. But it
take a year off. What do you mean?
They just had a flexibility.
So. If we tell you to take a year off, okay, but don't you dare come and ask us for it.
Yeah, so I think that they, in terms of canon stuff too, they took some big swings. Like I thought the Klingon War made sense. I mean, the original series, the viewers of that show who were adults were often in a war that they never talked about, right? Korea. Like, so it is kind of weirdly like realistic that.
You know about the Klingon War for the first season of Discovery?
Yeah. And I think I loved season 1 of Discovery. I thought it was an attempt to like do like a true prestige level series for Star Trek. And I think, Jason Isaacs' performance as Lorca is probably the very best performance in all of Star Trek history. And it so richly rewards rewatching. Okay. Like I think like everything he does like takes on a new meaning the second time through. Like it's really this is
on my list.
Artistically constructed in a way that rewards rewatching, where I think that if we rewatch season 2 of Discovery, for instance, we're just going to see more and more holes and problems. But in season 1, I think it benefits from rewatching.
The season. I mean, I want to sit down and do it because it's been 8 years now, 9 years. And so we've been to hell and back and everywhere in between with Trek and the world at large. And I want to do that to revisit that. But my basic memory of it is being aware and then seeing it on screen, how it was just like, quick, throw this in, throw this on the wall and see if it sticks. Throw this on. Let's do Mirror Universe. Let's do Klingon War. Let's do this. Let's do that. Instead of it like being, oh, this is cool, they're doing this. It was, oh, okay. Like, can we just pick one and like live with it anyway? And then to know how much chaos the writing staff was under from the beginning, it made sense. And it was like, if it hadn't been Star Trek, it never would have been, they would have pulled the plug and sent everybody home. But because it was Star Trek and it had to launch CBS All Access, it was like the motion picture. It's like, get it done, throw money at it and get it done. And I don't care who's left standing at the end, get it done. And it just looked that way to me all over. But yes, Jason Isaacs in the middle of all that was amazing. I mean, a lot of the, I mean, Michelle Yeoh, I wanted prime George Yu. I did
Yeah,
not care about the Empress, and I didn't want to, you know,
yeah. I thought the
I didn't
Empress
want
was
to
just
rain on
really
anybody else's parade that loves Michelle Yeoh, because I knew that took on all kinds of levels and meanings. But I did not care about the Empress.
I
I would
agree.
have loved to have seen that character we had for 2 episodes. But yeah,
Yeah, and I love the opening scene because in a way they're showing you we know exactly how to do Star Trek. We know exactly what this is, and then they like blow it up. Like it's I mean it's a very strange. There's a lot of serious questions to be asked about whether that was the first new story that we needed to see on TV. Like I can see why it was divisive. I understand that they
well, it was just born out of. I mean, the whole behind the scenes was so chaotic. It's
yeah
to me, like I say, it's amazing that anything survived to get to film, but that's because it had to. So yeah. And then the second season, you think, okay, now we're settled in, and they're going to use Pike and all of that, and then that blows up when the showrunners are fired, and they
yeah
wind up, and you can see that, and the road's not taken on the second season will be interesting because they started off saying we're going to have this one of the threads is going to be spirituality versus um, not spiritual. I mean,
all right yeah
not
because Pike
atheism so much,
supposedly is
but
a believer.
humanism.
Yeah.
Like Gene's kind of almost a revisit of DS9 with humanism versus theology. And well, it was like, okay. And that's why in the beginning, Pike talks about his dad, the preacher, and da da da. And they have the church show. And then that just goes away because the Red Angel. And then you have the goofy, well, if you wanted it to be a Marvel show, then just make it a Marvel show. And the red suit, and everybody gets down in their superhero stance,
Yeah.
their Spider-Man stance. You can't just run in it. You have to get down in a stance to run in it. And then all the stuff with the Section 30, the
The
Section 31 is
movie,
black. The ships are black. It's like the Andorian blue joke, only everything is black.
they have slightly different leather outfits. It's not quite
Yeah.
quite a uniform. They
And then when the programmable matter control brain, whatever it was, when it's
yeah.
attacking people and taking physical form and all that, it's that gray black. And I just like, couldn't it have been pink? Was there a rule that couldn't have been orange? Does everything have to be just like black on black on black, charcoal on charcoal on charcoal? Okay, you got me on a rant there. Anyway, I want to do a rewatch and see if my memories hold up on second view. But apparently we're going to have open after 4 month gaps between the next Trek and another 4 or 5, 6 month gap, and then maybe a real long gap going forward, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm worried that I jinxed it by calling my book late Star Trek. That this is really that. I thought the era was going to go on kind of indefinitely, and now within a year, everything's just kind of closing down shop. Like every Star Trek that's ever going to air, as far as we know, has already been filmed. Like they're waiting to put it out, but
Mhm.
it's done right now, which is kind of weird to think about after such frenetic activity for a decade.
Well, now, you were a fan? What did you come in with in real time? What was your first?
Oh, Next Generation when I was a kid.
Okay, so you remember 2005? That was the Star Trek world shut down, and it
Mhm.
and it limped home. Enterprise didn't take off. The audience was peeling off, either watching old shows or watching other sci-fi on TV, or just getting old. And Nemesis, was kind of a dead thud, and it just kind of limped home those last 2 or 3 years. And then they let Berman's contract expire, and no one cared about having another one. I thought we learned lessons in those years, but apparently, and I guess one of them will be it's stupid to have no Star Trek at all,
Mhm.
and I mean small screen. And then JJ pops up and says, "I want to do movies in my contract," and people were shocked, like, "No, Star Trek's dead. It needs to sit for 20 years." And he's like, "No, it doesn't." So I'll give him that.
Mhm.
They just were going to have the ego to reinvent everything and make you forget all that other stuff you saw, which was ridiculous. But at least they didn't all walk away from it. It just took 12 years to get it back small screen. But I thought, well, that's silly. And apparently the new owner, Ellison and company, say They want all their franchises on the streaming, which to me says they want at least one series, on the streaming. They talk about pumping up the movie slate, and I worried for a while about moving to movies, which if they're good and handled well, fine. But Star Trek's DNA. Do you agree with this? Star Trek's DNA is not movies. It should be, the whole nature of it should be ongoing weekly adventures with characters and world building and cool tech and all of that, and morality plays. And you don't get 2 hours every 2 or 3 years. Now, if they do a movie a year and they crank it up to Marvel scale, to me, that means, I don't know about you. To me, that means that's just more chances for them to screw up a movie.
Yes. Yeah, I don't trust them on the movie. Even the two-parters tend to be pretty weak, honestly. I mean, some of them are all-time greats, like Best of Both Worlds, but I think most two-parters, like the first episode, and then like they in principle solve the problem in the first 10 minutes of the second part, and then they have to like stall for time. Like,
well, like Best of Both Worlds Part 2 is not near as good as part. I mean, it kind of lands it the way it has to be, but it doesn't. The two. Well, see, some two-parters we look back now and it's just another box on the cue screen. Yeah. But originally, some of the two-parters were just two-parters for Sweeps Month and drag it out. We're going to spend more. We'll have Spock on TNG finally, and that was a two-parter to co-promote the movie. But the true cliffhangers were there to keep you over keep coming. There were only 4 or 5 of those, and then DS9 would have their anti-cliffhangers, where it was really a cliffhanger, but not specifically. Like, ooh, we can't, with the changelings are everywhere. Chilling moment. Not a, no one's about to fall off the cliff, hanging by the cliff. But
I think that's good. Like and when you're talking about like the Doom Patrol or something like that earlier, or like that, or like the Borg don't notice you yet, I think that Deep Space Nine really benefited from that effect. Like, once their attention was gone to like the movies and to like Voyager and trying to start the stupid new network, like Deep Space Nine was just left to do whatever they wanted, and like benign neglect. I think that actually Star Trek could use some more benign neglect from the corporate higher ups.
Well, see, supposedly, I just had an interesting conversation with someone who worked at not Paramount, but CBS, but so they were hoping they'd hang on to their job, but was saying that a lot of the fear about coming up, not so much about political, not so much about getting squeezed out in favor of movies over TV, but just money. He said a lot of his opinion, kind of from inside, although it wasn't his office. He was adjacent, but still inside and still worked on Trek, was that the decisions about Academy were not driven by the automated, militarized, industrialized hate campaign. It wasn't that. It didn't help, but it wasn't that, and it wasn't politics. It was just money they were spending, and the fact that apparently Alex's original contract, and if you think about it, it was put together in 2015. Think how millions of years ago that feels like now, on many levels, but including the stream. Like, it was a brave new world. It was 5 years before the pandemic, for one thing, but nobody knew where streaming was going to go, and you had a Netflix model, kind of, and the Netflix model was throw money at it and keep something going all the time, and don't let them churn. Don't let people end their subscriptions. Don't give them a reason to not watch. So you had to build up, you had to get something going, and then once you did, replicate that and keep them there all year long. And we got to peak streaming, and then people were like, oh, well, there's no money here. This way lies bankruptcy. Back off of that. Find the medium. And 15 episode seasons. No, you 12. No, 10. Okay, 10. And all of that was just in the last 8 years. So his contract, they were like, please, Alex, you're the last standing Trek producer who will talk to us, because JJ's doing. So it was like, Star Trek, so please come and do this for us. And he had this great contract. And now the new people are coming in, plus 8 years have gone by, and they're basically saying, we're not going to renew this. You have like all this power, and we need a stake in it. And that was kind of what which makes sense to me. If you go back and look at where the world was in 2015 and what they wanted to do and
Yeah.
stake everything on this one. So I get that, but it still is what's gonna happen, and where are we?
Yeah.
That was just one little thread I picked up on. But um, and because I was thinking, are they even going to care about TV? Or will there just be one series and there's no need for an empire runner if we just let the producer of the one series we decide to buy run that one series?
Yeah. I it's always been unclear to me what Kurtzman in specific was contributing. Like it seemed like he was good at bringing a lot of people on board or like letting people try a lot of stuff, but it's just not clear to me. Like, what are we losing if we lose his insight? Like it, I don't know. Maybe the sheer fact that he had power and that he could make things happen, like losing somebody like that, hurts the franchise in terms of getting
I
things
mean, for
made.
all the people that wanted to diss on him, he is the one that greenlit Mike McMahon to do Lower Decks
Mm-hmm.
and to get Henry Alonso Myers in to co-do Strange New Worlds. And he's the one that got the Hagemans and Aragon Walken all that to do Prodigy. It's amazing how anybody that even brings up Prodigy just loves Prodigy to pieces.
Mm-hmm.
And yet it's always like the bottom of the, it's kind of like, well, we need to invest our energy in talking about the live actions. And then Lower Decks went 50 episodes, 5 seasons. And you go, but Prodigy, half hours. But Prodigy had 40.
Yeah.
20
Yeah.
and 20.
I would say that the first 10 episodes, like basically the arc from up until they like rescue the slave camp is like that's a really special sequence of Star Trek, and the way they so elegantly like introduce concepts organically within the episode, like the Prime Directive is new to these kids, and we're introducing it to you. It didn't feel contrived, and like the fact that they made a mistake in a way that the other shows couldn't show, like that was so cool. Like that we finally get like I think in many of the other shows the Prime Directive is just a pure obstacle. It's like a pure no. And like in this show, we see the damage, and we see like the distrust that can form and how this can like affect things for a long time. And like it's one of the most convincing Prime Directive episodes ever, probably. And I love the time loop one where they have like where they're all stuck at different paces. That was so cool.
Oh, that was the clearest. It was for kids, but it was
Yeah.
the clearest explained time paradox, and it wasn't time travel. And then when you stop, there's somebody should do a whole documentary on this one moment of Rock Talk is the one that saves them. It's the show where she gets the revelation that she doesn't have to be a big security guard just because she's big.
Yeah.
But if you follow their formula of where the different time, if you were the closer you were to the explosion, what is it? The closer or the further? Anyway,
right.
She got the worst of it.
Yeah, she
and
was
if
alone.
You do the math. Yeah. She was by herself working on this for like hundreds of years. You talk about Picard on Inner Light, or you talk about O'Brien, or you talk about what we just saw, what just happened on Academy, with the time where the Doctor raises Sam for 17 years of real life, and then comes back. And in fact, Aaron Waltke told me that they had the number specified, and they had to take it out. So that's too depressing for kids. Like, she was alone for 1,327, or something insane. It's like, don't mention the number. Just let everybody kind of like wash over them.
Yeah.
But it was so simply explainable that you're like, oh my God, that visual just totally, you got it. And yes, it was like deceptively hidden. This was a kid show, and you've done this mind-blowing time paradox story. But anyway, so I think the first thing when you said, let's talk about this through what I said in my lens, you said this wasn't, did you say, well, what's happened now to Academy and Future of Trek is not surprising to you? Or am I making this up?
I mean, just because it seems as though they've been kind of winding it down for the last 5 years. They've only really the only thing that got made that was a new start was Starfleet Academy, which it seemed as though they were like almost doing it out of a contractual obligation or something like that. And like obviously, like Section 31, it seemed like they just did it for the sake of it because they had Michelle Yeoh under contract, and they're like, we can't let this go. But I mean, that was obviously so terrible. It was
I
like the very
yeah.
worst thing I've ever watched.
Well, and I think it was because I had a revelation about the motion picture being the same case. They start off with a series, the series goes away in favor of a movie, and then but all the work done on the series is like so these two characters, Decker and Ilea, were going to be running characters, and
Yeah,
then they get killed off to be drama for a 2-hour window, and you can say all you want to about that. And I thought, well, that's what's happened here. They had a 10-episode season written that was, and the writers, Erica and Bowie left, I think, when it became just a movie. They wanted to run a series, and one of their staff wound up, But I think they had an overabundance of stuff, and I think that was one of the flaws of Section 31 was they couldn't, if they had just started over from scratch. I mean, you could say, why are you doing a Section 31 movie? This is the wrong. I mean, you can go through all that, but I think one of the things that killed it because they had all these insanely detailed characters who all just died off one by one.
yeah, and they couldn't. The tone was so strange. It's like it's a comedy movie about the special ops, like, yeah,
until it wasn't. And I thought it suffered from budget. 1 minute they've got, it's like that scene in the casino bar with all the aliens and all the costumes. And then half of the rest of the show, it was like 1 or 2 people on screen at a time.
Yeah.
In huge empty rooms made of fabric.
It basically, I think that they had to make it to justify that last line when Giorgio like goes into the Guardian of Forever and she says, "You would have liked meeting San," and everybody's like, "Who the hell is San?" And then they show it, and it's just, I mean, it's
that had been planned when they. I mean, Eric and Bowie wrote that 2-parter to send her off of Discovery, and at the time it was all like full speed ahead, and then COVID hit, and the Pike, explosion hit, and things got turned, and Michelle Yeoh's life took off, and that perfect storm of things, kicked the can down the road, and then the big winds changed, and they're like, we don't want to commit to a series, or we can't commit her to a series.
It probably would be more expensive. Yeah,
it's just sad that I was hoping that maybe they could have found a mission, not a Plastic Boy mission. I mean, original 60s Mission Impossible tone to it, where it was kind of mysterious and quirky or whatever, and found that way. But no, it was just all over. I mean, I'm glad the Michelle Yeoh fans loved it and made it actually highly watched for a long time.
Oh my gosh.
It was in the top 10 of Paramount Plus, like movies watching the channel, but it didn't just go away and die. It was actually like actively in the top 10 watched.
You would think that word of mouth would kill it, but I mean, that's what happened to Nemesis, right? Like worst fall from the first week to the second.
Well, see, a lot of people, the world changed. I've heard from so many fans, and they've written back then and over the years, so many people were not caught. And this was 2002. It wasn't part of that. Let's go the first weekend and support it. Mm-hmm. That was still not a big thing yet. And a lot of people say, I don't want to go to the mobs. I'm going to wait till the mobs calm down and then go see it. That mentality about going to support wasn't. So a lot of people fully wanted to see it in the theater, and they were going to wait till the second weekend. And then in a lot of cities, there was no second weekend. Not because it was so bad, because it was holidays. That was part of it. Mm-hmm. They were egotistical and put it out in the Christmas crammed season, and the last gasp Oscar movies were coming, and there was just competition for theater times. And when it didn't blow up, like every Star Trek movie before that had been all the original series, each one was a bigger seller opening. A lot of them set the opening day record. Like Motion Picture did, and then Con did, and 5 dropped back a little bit, but then 6 did the same. But they at least ran for a while, and then First Contact had been so big, and Insurrection was so Nemesis was going to be the one to reset that. And then when it didn't, a lot of these highly competitive little theaters with slots there was a Harry Potter, there was a James Bond, there were all these big franchises for the holidays, and they let it go and got the next one in. And people went down to see it the second weekend and were like, it's gone already? Oh my God, it must have been trash. Or
well, I
or
mean,
they still
it
wanted to see
was
it and
trash,
they didn't
but
have a place to go. What?
I mean, it was trash, so they weren't like wrong, but
what I'm saying is the box office didn't really I mean, a lot of people wanted to see it and they didn't get the chance, or they thought it was hopeless, or they'll do it later. And so it went off the window of when it would have done well for the.
This is why I need to talk to Dr. Trek more often. Right?
Well, I just remember when it was the movie that I was the least involved with up front, because I was having to do chapters for the book and we didn't know. And by that time I knew. Anyway, it was weird because the first three had been more old school Trek people involved with it. And this one was outside Brent and John Logan, and they weren't on the lot, and there wasn't a lot of, and all the attention was on getting Enterprise launched and not so much on Nemesis, because it was going to be a autopilot. Studio thought, how can you go wrong with a Star Trek? How can you mess up a Star Trek movie? Don't let Stuart Baird direct it is one thing. But when I first finally got to read the script, I was like, oh my God, to read it was a page turner. And the thing about ramming the scimitar was like, they'd never done anything like that before. And it wasn't just reading it as script pages, as text. The idea of having it be rammed, and then they tried to get away, and it was just like trying to pull a fishhook out, It was like, oh my God, this is so viscerally. And there were some moments that I thought were incredible when Worf says the Romulans are fighting with honor. He's walking with Riker. See, I can still remember this, reading it and going, oh my God, this is going to be amazing. And then you watch the movie, and it's just they just run through those moments. It's like, wow. And somebody said one time that the secret of Star Trek movies, because I always laugh about people that want to talk about Star Trek movies, like it's the TV, the movies are icing on the cake for a TV cast until the Kelvins, and then they're icing on the cake for TV characters. But Nimitz, somebody said every Star Trek movie, the production has always lifted the script. Sometimes the scripts were great, sometimes they were mediocre, but the production always lifted the script. And Nemesis was the first time a production let the script down. And I was like that, and that so clicked into me, because I was so disappointed to see some of the things that actually made me think, oh my God, this is going to be so amazing to see this. And I was like, really? You just tromped right through that? You just, really? And those are the two examples I think of a lot. But anyway, how did we get off on Nemesis? Oh my goodness. So you said this doesn't surprise you. So are you saying that, I mean, this whole thing about Alex Kurtzman's contract expiring, will it be renewed or not, would have been an open question, even if Paramount hadn't had this humongously and politically charged, as in all these different elements beyond just it's a merger. And now it's a two-phase merger. It was a sale and now a merger. I don't know. Any other big picture thoughts there? I've kept you for, oh, look at this. Almost an hour and a half.
Well, we did get a little bit of a later start than you said, but
yeah.
I mean,
an hour and 15. Okay.
I'm not surprised. I think that it would benefit from having a pause of a year or two, and like just making sure whoever comes in like isn't just churning out more Star Trek, that they really have a unique idea. I think there were a lot of unique ideas in Kurtzman era Trek, but I think it makes sense that they kind of it was clear that they were running out of steam like 3 years ago, and I feel like the ending of Discovery and the ending of Picard was kind of like the end of the expansive era, and they're just kind of like winding things down at this point. It's kind of like to go from when they were having the Next Generation movies and Deep Space Nine and Voyager to, okay, now Deep Space Nine's over, now Voyager's over, now, I mean, we're starting this new show, but like it's only one, like just kind of, it feels like it's echoing that kind of downward trajectory of.
You can't sustain that peak forever.
No. No, you can't.
It's a matter of when.
And so I think this is a fine moment for them to take a pause and a reset.
What would you say were the highlights of the? I think you kind of did this, but what would you think? Because I think a lot of people. That's one. I think nuance. Gosh, stop me if you think about this with the culture at large. I just think nuance has gone out the window. I'm
Mhm.
amazed that people still want to lump all Kurtzman Trek together, and I go, whoa, whoa, whoa! I can tell a huge difference because I think they've evolved
Hmm.
as they learn how to handle serial storytelling and become. But I can see big differences. Well, Picard is to me is like three different series.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And it
But
seems
I
like
mean, I can
Discovery started
see.
over every year
Yeah,
too.
yeah, yeah. And you, oh well, how was the show set up? Who was running it? Who was what was the plan? And the whole streaming era. I go on this every week, but I hate the era we live in for episodic Trek right now because
Hmm.
what the world makes Trek do, from a 10 episode season to writing it, waiting a year to film it, or 9 months or whatever, and then a year till we see it. And it's been 2 years since the writers first had their idea. I hate all of that and the ripple effects of that. But anyway, that's me ranting once again. I had you on to hear what you thought about those kind of things. Do you think you're not an industry person? You're coming at this from religion and theology, but as a fan
Yes.
and as an academic.
Yeah.
So from your perspective, do you think as a product and entertainment for an audience, and we're specifically talking the Trek flavor, do you think this is sustainable? Do you think we're bound to evolve? Not because you're in the industry, but because you're out there watching.
Yeah. I mean, what puzzles me is that it seems like even Disney is not making money from streaming. Like nobody can figure out how to make this a profitable model. And it seems like everybody has a lot of complaints. It seems like serialized storytelling, it's a huge risk to say we're going to peg this season, the whole season on one story. And then they also have this kind of like dance of like, is it going to be renewed? Like
Mhm.
we have to kind of wrap up the story, but also leave room for something
Which is
else to
old
happen too.
school,
Like,
but now we're stretching it
yeah,
across ridiculous. It wasn't like it's in June now you're on the bubble for, or it's March and April you're on the bubble for a month or two before we know.
yeah,
It's this
yeah.
ridiculous
It's
stretch
just,
out.
I don't think it's a workable model. I think the, obviously we're never going to go back to the old model of like broadcast appointment television or something like that. I think the model of being able to pick when you watch something like that's something we're never going to go back from. I don't think people would tolerate going back from that. But like something has to
And all the
change. Like this
VHS tape
entire,
factories have shut down now. So
yes. I actually think that when I was happiest as a TV viewer was when it was the overlap between when they invented the DVR and when Netflix was still sending DVDs. And like you had access to everything. And I mean, now, like if you want to watch even a classic film, it's just kind of a crapshoot of like, is it going to be available on streaming? Is it for rental? Is it for streaming? Do I have to do a test, like a trial run? Do I have to, like, I think that the current model of television is really making everybody miserable. It's hurting the quality of TV, and it's not making money. It just seems like something has to change,
I feel like the
obviously.
the Emperor Netflix was exposed as totally no clothes naked during the strikes.
Yeah,
Especially that's
yeah,
what part of they were about. The AI was half of it, and the other was we don't know how much money you're making. Why are you not, like, we're all going broke and you seem to be doing just fine. Let's see the books,
yeah.
the transparency. And we're still not totally out of that because everybody else is trying to replicate what they're doing. And I still want to say, where are they making, because originally the boom was just signing people up, and then they got everyone signed up, and that's like, well, now where's your growth going to come from? And
Right.
that's what um I'm trying to, I totally abandoned the chat. I was trying to see if there were any everybody. I'm saying hi to everybody who's in here. um JR, what is this? TNG was the pinball bouncing around, and DS9 was the game of life. We live with those folks instead of leaving and forgetting. Oh yeah, as the um Oh, someone a little. Hey, Doralta, did you? You're a little slow on your headlines. Sorry, spoiler alert. Spoiler alert, Doralta. I thought they had news in across Europe though. What? Captain Calvin, what are you saying? You're trying to write a bit. Problem is coming up with new languages. Frustrating. Do you have any tips for me? Or there's some you mean like whole languages? Like go talk to Mark. I can't think of his last name. Oh my God, I've gone blank.
The
You know,
Klingon,
Mark,
the
Mr.
Klingon guy.
Klingon, or any of the other people who have done fictitious languages. All I can think of is Mark Altman and Mark Alimo. That's horrible. Or Mark Cushman. Someone's going to scream at me. If I just would like look and find his book over here. What are you? What? Oh, hi, David. Good to see you. Thanks for being a Patreon there. Oh, sorry to be the bearer of bad news that we all got like 10 days ago. There, Daryl. Yeah. Yeah, I still think it's interesting. He says I have nothing against a certain amount of fan service. It's interesting to me that you use that in a neutral way, and it's the people that use it in a negative way. But you're just saying it's fan service is building out the universe.
Well, I think that
That's the way you mean it, right?
fan service is just kind of like doing the kind of thing we usually do, or just like I think that building out the universe is something a
Oh,
little bit separate because it's potentially controversial.
that's right. That's right. That's right.
Whereas fan service is just like, okay, yeah, we're putting people on screen that you
Playing
like
it safe.
yeah, playing it safe, definitely.
Okay.
And you
Okay.
have to do that sometimes, right?
Well, yeah. It's that dynamic of well, why call it this universe? Why call it Star Trek if you're not going to do this? Let's see. Jalta didn't like the tendency to kill off characters just because you could.
Poor Hugh.
Yeah, yeah. Um, play against their premise. Hey, Gerhardt from Germany. Voyager had a built-in all-series arc, but then went full episodic. Yeah, Prodigy was conceived as a kids show, but had the most adult themes.
It is strange, like, a slave camp for kids. Like, what is going on?
Yeah, I remember Cadet Alice and I was like, it's kid slaves. Or the one where you meet Dal's mother, the Ferengi that kind of,
Yeah, she's like an abusive manipulator. Like, oh
it
my
was like a Fagin thing. And I said, who would have, like, can you imagine growing up that way? And she said, out of the blue, she said, yeah, what kind of parent would want to sell their kid? And I was like, yes, exactly. I'll never forget that. I was like, you got it. Fan service gets a bad rap at times, but fan disservice, Nard is in the Australian outback. Seems to be the norm now, and I think that's a big mistake. Fan disservice. Hi, Sherry. Yes, Plushy Leonard says hello back there. Everybody's giving me their weather reports. There's parts of Kurtzman Trek that I adore. Picard Season 3, Strange New Worlds, Lower Decks, SFA, Prodigy, and 2 of the Kelvin films. See, the Kelvin films aren't... See, everybody lumps... He worked on them, but he didn't work on the last one. But everybody lumps the JJ movies, and JJ nor Kurtzman worked on the third one. They may be in there by credit because contractually they are, but they weren't their babies. But the Kelvin movies get lumped in as Kurtzman. But he was subservient to JJ except for the third. The stuff you don't care for is Discovery, Picard 1 and 2, and Into Darkness. Yeah. Overall, you love more than you like. Okay. And there we go. JR says Paramount, the last 8 years, has a, yeah. Why can I not? Oh, has a toss overweight and launched escape pod. Oh, thank you. Sorry, I was like, what? Attempted to connect a flotilla of studio to stay afloat. Kind of, yeah. That's fascinating. You're getting some. So Philip is a burgeoning writer. Star Trek values are definitely something I consider to be integral to my belief. I don't know if that would be a religious or political impulse or a combination of both. That's an interesting, the marriage of those realms. Yeah, isn't Trials and Tribulations basically fan service the episode?
Yes, yes, definitely. The final frontier.
That's what I ask. We had this Tribulations panel during the Trek Talks webathon on Saturday, and Terry and Dan Curry couldn't be there. He got stuck in a No Kings rally, but had Terry, Farrell, and Ira there. And at the end, I said, so we enjoy Tribbles, and we'd already said about if you talk on DS9, if you talk about the big episodes that are memorable, it all winds up being, oh, well, Tribulations and Far Beyond the Stars and Our Man Bashir and Little Green Men, and the atypical,
the ones that are outside of the scope.
Yeah. And Ira was like, no, and then he said, Pale Moonlight was a great one. I'm like, yes.
Oh yeah.
Pale Moonlight. I said, but beyond that, all the memorables, and then the finale and the pilot. But other than that, the ones that really stick out and I could go duet, we could do more, but the ones that people think of first are the ones that were the atypicals. And he's like, that shouldn't be it. Oh, and Past Tense, the two-parter with the Bell Rides.
Yeah.
But he was saying, like the everyday grit of DS9 and the character building. And it's not like it's anybody's fault. That's an awesome thing. But we're talking about how ironic it is that sometimes the ones that people remember were the atypical ones. But I said, so if you look at it that way, is Tribulations just a fun one to look at, or do you think Tribulations contributed something, Roddenberry-esque, the way that Past Tense or Far Beyond the Stars, or Pale Moonlight did? And we kind of got to a point where it's like, well, Star Trek looks at anyway, that it was an inward look, not an outward look. And so it's fine to celebrate the things that gave people inspiration. So anyway, so it wasn't just fluff, is what we're saying.
But I think also, like, Deep Space Nine is such a great example. They do so much fan service. Like, they do way more references to original series in Deep Space Nine than they ever did in Next Generation. And I think it's because they were trying to establish we are real Star Trek. We're really part of this. And I think that they actually, aside from the fact that they do a lot more world building just because of the nature of the show, I think they did a lot more work connecting the two eras of Star Trek that had been kind of left separate, and like did a lot to shape the people's expectations of what the universe was like.
Yeah. And you know why TNG was that way? Because their DNA was this has to stand alone and not lean on the original series. So they were all, Dr. Crusher's the only doctor that never said, I'm a Dr. Nada.
Yes.
That's one of my little bits of, I wish they'd let her do that in Picard, but they didn't. Oh, looky here. David says, I remember you from the Trek Files. And he doesn't mean me. He means...
Oh, hi. I wondered how the audience responded to my weird habit of watching animated series whenever I get a new apartment, so that, like, I guess it's like burning incense or something, but yeah.
Oh, I'd forgotten that. Considering making Star Trek or more broadly science fiction the subject for a thesis for a second master's later on. Okay, Phil. Well, there you go. Hey, here you go. Brandon says he just ordered your book. Yay. Okay.
Thank you.
There you go. The emergency professional hologram. Yeah. Philip says it's happened to him too, accused of being Jewish despite having been raised Catholic and now atheist.
I mean,
see, people
accuse. I mean, they mean it as an accusation, but yeah, obviously.
Hey, Captain Calvin, when you found out after reading some comments in one other board, people just want to bitch and moan about something and they come up. See, this is what I'm saying. It's like it's a compliment. Oh, look, Star Trek, you're back in the public eye enough. like the pilot of Discovery, and now again, congratulations, you're in the mainstream long enough for the world to come shit on you. You know, what's better, to be in the shadows and left alone, or be out in public and be so perceived to be so big? Um,
Yeah,
and they come up with the most idiotic reasons for it. Take Discovery. I mean, it is clear they hate the show because of the premise, but they come up with, yeah, the Klingons don't look like Klingons. Well, you know, it was a hell, or they have a spore drive and that doesn't work. Newsflash, it's a TV show. It can look the way it wants. Well, you know, but those have real life effects too. Like the spore drive, it's coming to me. It hit me when I was working on an update for the star charts. Discovery just I don't mean the people physically. The people physically do in their ship, but the story itself just oozes from scene to scene and plot to plot. And part of that's the serialized. That felt jerky. It's like the plot had more to do with the speed and tempo of the show than the universe they lived in, because they were on a ship that just popped in, and it just felt, I realized that there's no ground, like the traditional grounding, and some of this is just anal, you know, back, you know, trying to put together planets and speeds. And, you know, normally in the old shows, you'd get it, oh, well, hit there at warp 5, and, you know, like 12 hours later, captain's log, where blah, blah, blah. And you go, okay, well, it was about 12 hours at 5. And you would have familiar, and sometimes there are familiar markers and you hang it on that. But other times you're trying to figure out about where they were, or dramatically, did they get there real quick, or did they take a day and a half or 3 days? And there's no time markers in Discovery. It's like they weren't dated. And so there's no ticking clock groundedness in Discovery. And they just felt like, well, that's maybe what feels unsettled, that we don't even get, is that it just kind of oozes along. And boy, you're back with it though in Strange New, and you're back with it in Academy. Oh. It's like, and then Picard's in whatever timeline they're in anyway, and it doesn't matter. But anyway, that's like a little insight that
I had never thought of it that way. I think I need to. Dinner is being prepared currently, so.
And yes, we're not here to do a marathon. I may take some more of these questions here. I didn't know if you saw anything over here. I'm sorry, everybody. We got to yakking, and I've been like, oh, we have questions, maybe.
Feel free to. I trust your judgment.
I don't want to hold you up from dinner or get you in trouble or anything like that. I didn't expect to do a marathon today, but I wasn't thinking, and that's how we got here.
All right. Well, I will see you next time. Thanks so much for having me.
Yes, Adam, thank you so much. And once again, you got a book sale from Brandon, but everybody, how can people get it? It's on Amazon or
on Amazon,
or a lot of other places?
Yeah, anywhere you can buy a book, you can buy this book.
And it's Minnesota University Press, everybody. So, Adam, thanks so much, man. Thanks for popping up and saying, let's do this again. And I don't know if you learned any insights today from our bunch, but I feel like we've gotten it there from. It's always good to hear a calm voice, especially.
All right. See you next time.
Okay, Adam. Thanks. Bye-bye. Okay, everybody. I was definitely not time guarding there, and definitely feeling it. I'm going to scan through here, and I bet we don't get to a lot of questions today, especially since I've lost the guest. Because Janeway secretly hated Mark and wanted an excuse to get out of her arrangement. There you go, Philip. Sure. Play those little academic political games. Sure. Whatever the bureaucracy needs to do. Yeah. Well, see, they didn't master space flight. They just got it handed to them. It was the prime directive gone wrong. See what happens? Lived on the Kazon, not the Ogla. Who was it? The Kazon Nistrum? Who were the original Kazon? Because the Kazon Ogla, no, it was Kazon Ogla there. It was the Nistrum that wound up being mages. Not mages. They were mages. Yeah. There you go. Yeah. They propagated that to be. They considered what to do, and they decided it would be too confusing to the modern audience who had not seen the original series to have flat heads, and they didn't want that explanation to bog down the blood oath. So they made them all, so you had to figure out how did the flatheads become bumpy heads, and that led a little bit to the whole, oh, it's just a budget thing, ignore it, move on. Yeah. Spoken like a true non-capitalist. My goodness. Unforced error. Yeah. Thank you. Unforced error. Thank you. I was trying to remember that term the other day. Some people are, definitely. But there's a bottom line. There is a point where you say, well, then why have it be Star Trek if you're not going to follow the... It's just that everybody's definition of scale of what's basic probably... You're the worst Trek critic. You just watch Trek with enjoyment. Oh, you slacker, JR. And Duralta. But if something actually stops your brain and takes you out of the story, then I'm sorry. Should I like tame my brain? Should I just drug myself where my brain isn't going there? Are you self-censoring here, JR? I think you should do something. Now, who knows how far it'll go, but you know. You know, I mean, that was me. I did what I did because I wanted to, and I thought I could look at the readership of Interstat and see that I was in the vast minority of people that wanted to see... I wanted to see the Andorians and Tellarites, not more Spock stories. Laurie Ulster and I love the musical. Well, you're not alone. Tons of people. There's a sing-along happened that first year, happened all over the place. It was didn't hurt that it was ballooned up by the pandemic isolation. Okay. Not for you, Strange New, but you've watched it, like bits of it. Hate reboots and prequels at the best of times. Yeah. And see, to me, a prequel, doing a show set further back in history isn't a prequel. It's just exploring another part of the Star Trek universe, because you're not looking at like characters when they were younger necessarily. It's all new characters, just given a different time. Like, should we not set movies in the Revolutionary War times or the Civil War times or the Jane Austen Regency era? Should we not do stories set in historical periods? That's the way I look at Star Trek. So it's, especially since we broke out of Star Trek being Kirk, Spock, McCoy. Once that gate was open, then, you know, everything was fair game. Which is why I start. Oh, it in a lot of ways, yeah. But I'm sorry, Senator, you're no Jack Kennedy. And I say that, don't, Janeway Army, don't yell at me. That was important and amazing. Fit for Duty, starring Troy. Got to talk about it to Marina at she actually remembered my poster I made and placed on Twitter. Awesome, JR. Yeah. Well, like, I'm glad how some of you are enjoying today and wanted to jump in. Always wondered how a darker Voyager would have gone. Yeah. Yeah, Voyager to me will always be the show that had such potential at the beginning and they made it be watered down. Went vanilla. And then Jerry and Seven brought a little spice back to it. And I don't mean in a racy way. I mean in a gritty, let's have some friction here way. You want a legit Star Trek survival series. That was what Voyager was supposed to be. And maybe even Prodigy. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Dark Voyager instead of Now Voyager. In season 2, the Empress got funnier. I like that. All in all, season 2 Disco got funnier. Yeah. Oh, yeah. They're black. Dabbity dabbity may dabbity dee da. Blowing Star Trek up seems to be the norm these days. They seem to start with positivity, then boom, there goes Star Trek, blown to bits. Ah, I long for something grand in Star Trek. Yeah. Maybe we'll get something again. Can we stop wasting time? We had to kill 12 years there without episodic TV. That was hell to live through for 12 years without small scale adventure, weekly adventures. Your view, Captain Calvin, is that Trek's downfall is lots of overall criticism that doesn't need to be there. It's like this with SFA. It was like this with Discovery. It was like this with Enterprise. All nag, nag, nag. This is not Star Trek. Oh, come on, shut up. Well, one thing I keep getting here is it's not so much the criticism, but like, how is it done? Its Enterprise was when socials kind of really sprung off of just message boards and went, well, it ended about the time that Facebook became a thing, baby Facebook. So, but yeah, it was starting to be the nag, nag, nag. What is just your level of civility in whatever it is you have to say being said? Everybody jumps to the rough verbs and adjectives, trash, sucks, die, squash, kills, even as a good word. Oh, he really kills it. It's like, okay. There's even more than this. Oh, Jan Campo raid. Okay. Mm-mm-mm. Thanks for the local news there, Donnie. Sorry. Don't know how, oh God, guys. I may not get to the end of the chat today because it's been we're looking at an hour and 45. I went long with Adam. Well, I don't know why we need. This is a thing. When the first day Akiva said something about this on stage at Comic-Con San Diego, you could have heard a pin drop. It was crickets. No one cares. We don't need yet another version of Kirk years. Like, there's so much more in Star Trek, so many other eras and areas, areas and eras to go to that I have questions about that I've been waiting 30 years. Do we have to go back to? It just takes away from. I mean, it was bad enough for the Pine movies because at least that was alternate and that was safe, and that was the perceived way to navigate to bring Trek back. When if you just gone to something fresh and new and bold. But you're dealing with suits and bean counters who don't get it, so you've got to be obvious sometimes. Yeah. Okay. I don't know how anybody doesn't love Prodigy. And it's so pure and it's great for giving you basics of Star Trek. Here's the Federation. Here's the Prime Directive. Here's our history. Here's our founding species. Okay. Does Seth MacFarlane need that headache and that political mess? And does Seth MacFarlane want to work for the Ellisons? Or whoever's like going to actually run the streaming service or is underneath them? wish the fandom would sit back and allow that. See, when you say the fandom, I say this all the time, and I love you, Narda, but you're doing what a lot of people do. Online fandom is not all fandom. It's just a slice of it. I don't think fandom online that we see, and fandom online isn't one thing. There's people that are 24/7, and there's people that get on their Facebook once a week. I mean, it's a little spread out. But then there's people that aren't on at all, or they're on once in a blue moon. The great unwashed armchair fandom of the world. Yep. A little disagreement there about Seth MacFarlane. See, everybody loves the Orville, and I guess the people that miss TNG. To me, Orville just feels like warmed over TNG, and that's okay. It just feels like bland. Oh, Isaac is Data, and the Mocklins are Klingons, and Bortus is Worf, and da 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 da, and da 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 da, and it's so close. They made it different. The one I loved the first season episode about social media because I thought that was a fresh take on something that hadn't existed that Trek had never had a chance to talk about, and they made the point, and it was like, yes. See, that's the only episode after all this time that I'm sure I can think of more. But there you go. Rock is awesome. Yeah. Oh, Steve doesn't like Lower Decks. Okay. Well, see, there we go. This is basically it. Yeah. And I think Prodigy would be a lot more popular if people just could or would watch it and get past that opening. The opening feels very Star Warsy, but I think that was intentional. Let's see. JR. You missed a year of these Tuesdays. A wee bit sad another show was canceled. Oh, okay. You're talking about here or what? Okay, there you go. You're in a very small club, though. I just see it as a sad waste. I think, again, about what could have been. I really hope at some point we can get access to the episode scripts that were written for the series to see the way you can Phase 2. I hear you, Philip. A lot of people will say that TMP is their favorite Trek movie because it's the most pure sci-fi, especially as the production has gotten better as they've improved it, getting back to what Robert Wise really wanted in the first place and had to be shortcut for the time chase. Now that it actually looks beautiful and gorgeous and it's filled out with audio and yeah. The only thing can kill off the Delton. Yeah. Okay. Looks like we're very I love seeing everybody here, but it looks like we didn't have as many fresh faces popping in. A review and an autopsy. Okay. Gang, I may be jumping through here. Well, see, there you go. It just didn't happen on a moment's notice. Data's dead and that sucks, but come on, give us a new flick. You and a lot of people, I would think. Yep. Search for data. That's what the beginning of Nemesis was. Did we only have like 4 people here today? I love seeing you guys, but I had more people at our Trekophiles tonight on Discord on Monday night. Um, Philip, yes, sir. Let's make this happen. Absolutely. 3 shows, 3 casts at any one time: animated show for kids and families, a live action Starship show, and an action adventure film series. Maybe in a bit. Sure ramped up the infrastructure for just, monetizing hate magnets. Didn't mean to do that. Adam's never gonna pop his head up again. Oh my God, Larry can't shut up. Well, yeah, but I should have had my guardrails up. Yeah, that's kind of where they come from. Yeah. I'm thinking like 15 or 18 would give some wiggle room in there, because I know that the toll that 26 episodes, especially with a show like Star Trek, the toll that 26 episodes a year takes on families and individuals. So, want to watch a 1978 movie and streaming make you pay? Just add the ads. And go back to taping and taping out the commercials if it's important. Yeah, yeah. Steve, you were here the whole time. Yes, Uncle Larry. 1 year, Steve Areno. Mr. Vanderhoff is still right. Thank you. I just did a brain fart. Mark Okrand. Of course, Mark Okrand. My gosh. Oh, there you go. Yes, we saw. Yeah, Brandon, I pointed out when you first said it. When we relooped. Yeah. Texture and trivia. Yeah. Oh, Philip, I may send Adam this and share it somewhere. Yeah. Thank you, Narda. Yeah, just use the universe, as I say. Yeah. Now, fan service to me is like if you just get in and you wallow around and you're just blathering, numbers and like you're just drowning in obvious terms over and over, and it's not a parody, it's not Lower Decks, and you've got the visuals, the visual goofy Easter eggs from the collector ship. That was on purpose and intentional. But otherwise, don't be. We had TNG was afraid to use the universe. They didn't want to, but showing how tough they were. We're going to invent everything fresh. And we'll have big debates about whether or not to mention Spock or not. The original was kind of boring. Well, it was the late 60s. Just got to say. I remember it fondly. The theme was the most exciting part of that show. Everybody was, McGarrett was stoic, and all the Hawaiian native guys were stoic. Yeah. Book 'em, Dano. Yeah, it wasn't explained, but the augment virus was 20 years. No. That was second season. So like 94, that was 10 years away from being invented. 10 years of real time, not 10 years of Star Trek time. Oh yeah, The Way of the Warrior and The Visitor. See, but The Visitor was an atypical episode too. See? All true. All true. Oh, I don't know how that works. Maybe academics. It's the University of Minnesota. Mm. Dropping by to say have. Oh, hi, Rose. Yes. Ah, Easter weekend. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I didn't even mention. We didn't even mention the Andy Weir. He and I talked about it on the other side of the room. I mean, yeah, that's what must have happened. Yeah. Like what? Yeah. Or what else do we need to know about them? If there's a reason to have new adventures of characters in that time, but what else do we need to know? Here's what happened every other week that you didn't see before. Because then they will absolutely refuse to do like Star Trek Continues level or Star Trek Tours level redos of the original sets and just give them a hugely detailed gloss layer that you couldn't see, but it now makes total sense, which is what Strange New should have been and Discovery. You can totally make it accessible to it because that's part of the alienness of the futurism. They look simplistic because it can be, because that's how advanced the technology is. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with a bit of vanilla bean. If it's vanilla bean. Mm-hmm. Okay. Narda, hope everything goes well. Voyager had real potential. Oh, hi, Dr. Ghoul. The clash between the crew and the Maquis could have been incredible. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it wasn't the producer, it was the network said, get rid of all that. It's Star Trek. It's got to be heroes. But that was part of the built in friction to get by the story, to give the story some framework. Hey, Pedro, you made it. Anonymity breeds hate. If no one knows you, you feel like you can say anything with no repercussions. I totally the hiding behind. I get it. CB craze. Everybody had a handle. It was cute. I get that. Everything online handles that have no relation to your name or anything. It's an obvious. You're obviously probably some kind of spammer or some kind of scammer or some kind of bot troll because you don't have your actual name out there. So you've already set yourself up for a filter that people have a brain are going to see you as. But yeah, hiding behind that anonymity. Yeah. Well, I think we've had people in charge who know what they're doing, but it's still different ways of doing things. But look at the showrunners. I mean, like I said, Alex hired Mike McMahon. Alex hired Terry to come in. Alex hired the Hageman brothers. Yes, there were all kinds of attempts to darken up Voyager there at the end. Absolutely. An audience like an ATM. Put in Kirk and get money out. Yeah. But see, a lot of this is not so much criticism, it's how it's criticized. And what is that? You catch more flies with honey than sugar? No, you know what I mean. Um, do you take a sledgehammer to somebody? Do you talk or do you pull out a gun and force your opinion on somebody? That's kind of what I think the world was. The great unwashed American. We got to get the first one done, which is happening. But you didn't hear it from me, except I kind of said that. Hey, Pedro. Bob will eventually try. It's that doctor healer part of me just wants to help somebody out, and some people just don't want to be helped. The Orville was 26% different, not just 25. You guys know that that's just an old industry term, right? John Eves did not make up that number. No executive said, I want it to be 25%. It's just an old, what am I trying to say? It's just an old estimation. It's just an old guesstimate, loose term that the industry uses. Yeah. Well, the Orville was very close to TNG. Yeah. Okay, I'm not going to get into this and this. And now we have new parody TikToks and things happening. See, the whole world is not automatically 24/7 living on these things. Mm-hmm. This is one way to put it, Philip, a right-wing grifter class. Yep. It's kind of like the new Nerdrotic is still out there. The original 2017 era folks are still out there, kind of. And there's new, because there's been nothing more but the grifter industry has, the clickbait, the rage bait. And we have all these terms to describe things that didn't exist 100 years ago. Yeah. Oh, work and sleep changes. You missed over a year at TTL. Well, I'm glad you're back, JR. It's all there on 5 Alive. It's all there. I might disagree with you there. At least Jesse and Steve, you might disagree with things they have to say, but they're not steamrolling. Oh, I disagree with this. I just like saying something in Enterprise can have a jeopardy factor. There's lots of jeopardy factor. It's like you have to be bigger than your material. You have to like know who's in charge. I'm not saying know who's in charge of the franchise and it's canon. I'm saying who's in charge of the material. You can do anything if you're up for it. Talk to the book authors. They know what to do. They're not intimidated by setting a story in different time periods. Yeah. The end of the chat is nigh. Haven't seen the Europeans today. Christoph and Cairo. That's one way to do it. One way to do it, Doctor. Another Section 31 fan. Yeah, well, see, the series would have been characters developed. A lot of those actors said they were hired in the series era. So I know they were disappointed not to have a series. They were also disappointed the way the whole thing crashed and compressed. Well, I think if you want to say the fans of Academy, I think that's coming out of something personal. I think you're coming from a class, you're coming from groups that have been marginalized who are fighting for respect and dignity. And so it's more like a cut. The others, it's coming from a place of taking advantage. So it's kind of like, it's like, who do you sympathize with, the abusive husband or the wife that finally shoots him? Yeah, I think this is a safe place to go. I'm not posting all of this back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, like I said. Ah. Well, there's this. There's this. Like I said, I've been amazed that we have conservative Trek fans since the Reagan era, but more is merrier. Well, like I said, sometimes people come at things out of pain, but I would rather have somebody come at something out of pain than out of fear, enraged. Some people react to fear different ways. Some people go inward, some people go outward. That's what I'm saying about fandom in general. Don't you change Star Trek. It transcends fear to anxiety to fear, and fear sometimes goes into shutdown. Sometimes fear goes into anger. Like wounded mama bear. Oh, I don't know, David. Have you ever seen Johnny Quest? Well, there's this, Philip. Yeah, there's this. I love how similar situations over the years get kind of white. It's the rosy colored glasses, and I was there. Yeah. Oh my God, the stuff with Enterprise. But now it's just, remember sentimentally how we hated DS9 at the beginning and how we hated Enterprise. Not everybody, but the loud 10%. It's what I used to always call the loud 10%. And if they were sincerely human, it's fine. It's the people capitalizing from money and clickbait and all that. Budget reasons. Uh, no, they didn't help, but my sense is it was a money thing, and to not expect a huge wave of political difference in Trek going forward. Well, considering Kirsten Beyer was one of the first people, Brian Fuller, who was a Voyager writer and got his start with Star Trek and a huge fan. Larry, would you come over and take a picture of me on the transporter? Brian, don't you have people here to do that? Are we going to get yelled at? No, no, no. I'll get us on the set. I'll never forget that day. So, yeah, there were lots of fans involved in Kurtzman Trek. Oh, like Mike McMahon. I don't know. Kirsten was there. Tawny Newsome. I mean, Noga Landau had been a Star Trek fan since she was 5. Had her crush on, was it Worf? Yeah. Oh, now I'm almost caught up. Yeah, more flies with honey than vinegar. Like who wants flies? I never understood that one. BS attracts more flies. Yeah. Eat shit. Millions of flies. I'd never heard this. Okay. You guys are just coming in. Let's see. Yeah, see, this was the British model. That was always the BBC model, that 6, 8, and it always looks so weird and chintzy compared to 20 episodes, 22, 26. Major Grin's channel? Who's Major Grin? Yeah. You might still be European if you're. Well, no, you're in the continent of European, not of Europe. You're sure not North America, and you're not Africa, right? Oh, I would disagree and say there is so much of the Star Trek universe not known that you can totally do big universe swings and have it not affect anything else that's already out there. There is so much gaping hole in time and in place of Star Trek. Please, why do we have to keep going back to Kirk and Spock as much as I love them? And if we're going to go back in Kirk and Spock, can we please talk about McCoy's divorce and Joanna's birth? Can we please talk about something that hasn't been covered yet? Is Thomas Jane going to talk about his divorce when we see him in the finale of Strange New? Why does nobody get it? Why does nobody get it? Yeah. I understand this, and I've seen this happen. But again, I say it's people coming from a place of pain and hurt and feeling personally attacked versus people who are just in it for the cash or somehow taken the wrong or a minority view of the Trek that made it popular in the first place. When kids were marching against Vietnam and for civil rights, and the thing that inspired them, it's not what I feel like is inspiring a chunk of Trek's audience today. Oh, is this chat ever going to end? Yeah. Come on, who doesn't have a deep dive thing for the original tech manual? That was the first thing that inspired me. I was mad that all those pages were missing, so I'm going to start filling in these missing pages. The Congo is in Dorothy's memo, and it's also one of the decal names, right, on the AMT decal sheet. And I think places over the years in fan fiction and maybe published fiction, I mean, look it up on Memory Beta, but I know Continues used the Congo in one of the episodes. Christoph, you're here. Oh, I'm sorry, Christoph. Yeah, I thought I was going to have to be gone today, but I went ahead and did it. Oh, we've actually wrote the 90s? No, I mean the 60s. This is what I mean. Yep. This is true. But change is the nature. What is it? Change is the nature of the. No, there's one other adjective in there. Spock has the line. Change is the essential nature of the universe, which is why you progress or die. You stagnate. And the scientific history is littered with species or civilizations that didn't evolve and they died. Yeah, the rest, everything else moved by. We've just empowered all kinds of people who are not going to progress, who have all kinds of power. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh. Oh, hi, Shelley Hoovian. How about the STO era? Yeah. STO went into a big gap when nobody thought the gap was going to be filled, and then oh look, it's like the pocketbooks. Oh look. Mm-hmm. Well, I'll tell you, Pedro, it certainly boggles my mind, but it has ever since the Reagan era. Ever since the 80s, I first, because of, and then we have the pew pew action versus shipping and all of that. Um, Change is the law of life. Those who look only to the past or present are certain to miss the future. JFK. The past is the light. The past is the only light by which we illuminate the future. Who said that? Admiral Vance, my favorite line from all of Discovery. Well, progress is not a black and white thing. You can have all kinds of opinions about how to progress. So, well, that's the first thing people gravitate to. Okay, guys and gals and peeps, this has been a marathon. Sorry that I wiped out poor Adam, apparently. But before I forget, it's high time that I thank everybody on our Patreons. Yeah. I'm talking about Chuck A., James Kerwin, Diana Hopkins, Halbeard Gunnjonson, Lawrence Todd, Chris Jiggins, Mitch Keith Rombach, J.R. Poole, Pranakasha Productions, Comedy Forecast, Andrew Jasimski, and our live wires. Hey, Joshua Reeve, Gary Williams, Robert McLean, Byron Bailey, David Gall. Thank you, David. You've been here today. MJ Frug, Chris Garris, Brandon Coles, Dave Gregory, Jesse at Crusher Convo, Donna S. Runyon, and Casey Shafsky. Thank you so much. Everybody, the simple Patreon is just patreon.com/Trekland Live. $5, $10 a month. I swear I'm going to get caught up on the interviews. I owe all of the live wires. There you go. It's that. And a quick note here. The Trek Files is on hiatus. It's going to be on hiatus for a few weeks. It's going to be at least probably May before we're back with season 15, but we've already got shows recording. TheTrekFiles.com is our page on Memory Alpha where you got the player and the documents of the week and the hot links into Memory Alpha, because we're on hiatus, but there's 14 seasons. That's 14 times 24. Quick, do the math. Of episodes that are there, including folks who have no longer with us. Dorothy Fontana kind of leads that list. Richard Arnold. Even Gerald Freed. So check them all out. It's amazing how many things are still relevant. And of course, as I say, if you're coming to LA, you're thinking about it, and you've got a spare day and you want to do an actual Trekland trek, your actual away mission to a location site, we work it out ahead of time. Get in touch with me. I'll make it as great a day as we can. Traffic, logistics, all of that stuff. I'll handle it. You just have an incredibly memorable time with my help, and we'll have an awesome day. TreklandTreks.com or LarryNemechek.com and take the link. And yeah. Where's my, oh no, I've lost the card. This thing. Everybody, if you're thinking about it, please get in touch with us this month, because we're going to close the books at the end of April. The multi-day Geek Nation Tours Big Day Location Tour. Several days, only at maximum 20 people. All who can fill out the bus together. And we have a great time and wind up at Vegas. And of course, if you're looking for me around the socials, it's just Larry Nemechek on Blue Sky and Twitter X, Larry's Trekland on Facebook, on Instagram, and YouTube. Make sure you've liked the channel, rang the bell, subscribe, do all the things. Portal47.net if you really want to deep dive in. I'm getting some new modern era folks, made some contacts at, of all places, WonderCon last weekend. Didn't even talk about that today. Might hold that off till next week, and we'll see what some of these simmering little melodramas online turn out to be as the world keeps evolving into this new place we are within Trek and the outside world. So we're going to have some Cadet Alice news here in the next couple of weeks. We're going to get started on our long-awaited posting our season 2. Hopefully some other news of all stripes coming down the pike over the next few weeks. Can't wait for this year, the 60th anniversary year, to progress. Hope everybody is doing well where you are. World's a crazy place. We do have our Trek. That's no excuse for... Hopefully Trek is a great security blanket, recharge, refresh place. But the world needs us all to bring our Star Trek modernism to today, our Star Trek optimism and outlook and equality and embrace of nothing else, our embrace of rationality, fact-based thinking. And having said all that, and lots of other stuff already, everybody will see you next week on Tuesday. And till then, gang, please stay healthy, do all the things. Stay awoke, check the sources, and trek well, everybody.